Welcome to Real World Real Estate, where we will explore, examine, and explain the real process of buying or selling real estate. Here is your host, Stephen Clyde.
Hello, everybody. Stephen Clyde here, your host of Real World Real Estate with RE/MAX Preferred and RE/MAX at Cherry Hill. First, let me say I'm sorry we missed everyone last week, but unfortunately, the tropical storm that came up the East Coast also took out our power and internet, so we were shut down. So we're coming back to you today. It was actually a crazy day last Tuesday when the storm came through that went from a hurricane to barely a tropical storm, but by the time it hit New Jersey, had a little oomph to it. Tens of thousands of people lost power, and if you were here, you would have seen me fully dressed running out into a storm to secure patio furniture and umbrellas that were blowing away and chaise lounges. And by the time I came in, I was literally soaked to the bone. So my advice there is pay attention to the weather service and get all that stuff ready before the rain and the storm shows up. I normally do, but this one I kind of blew off and didn't pay any attention to, and that was a mistake on my part. But we still have a lot of people in the area who are out of power and don't have internet access. We were dealing with it with our photographer, who now we're a week later and they still don't have power. My daughter and grandchildren, who are in North Jersey, about 90 minutes north of us, ended up with no power for 4 days and had to come down and move in with us. So before I get into today's podcast about the market conditions and multiple offers and that type of thing, I want to say make sure you have a container or a box for storm preparedness. You've got candles and battery backups and flashlights and brick chargers for your phones. So when those storms come through and the power goes out, you can keep going a little bit. We were able to do some stuff when the internet went out because we could use our phones for hotspots, but obviously we couldn't do any heavy downloads or anything. So make sure you've got candles set aside, you've got your flashlights, and you've got your batteries, and you've got them in a place that you can grab them when those storms come through. In the next week or so, we should be having an interview with Randy Vonderton from Edgewood & Associates. Randy's a third-generation insurance broker. And we're going to talk about homeowners insurance and what riders to make sure you have in place to protect you for these storm situations. Because if that tree goes down in your yard, unless it causes damage, your insurance company's not going to help you with it. That's going to be your $600 to $1,000 expense to get rid of that tree. So look over at homeowners insurance, make sure you've got things in place to be prepared for when the storm comes. And do as I say, not as I do, and listen to the weather service when they tell you the storm's coming in and to hunker down. And don't run out in the middle of the storm when you're fully dressed in a suit to try and secure everything. It's not a good look, and it was very annoying. So today we're going to talk about the market conditions we're in, fast-paced market right now. We've talked in the past about the reduction in inventory that we're facing and the high buyer demand. So we're in an extreme seller's market right now. And this creates all kind of headaches and problems, both on the buyer side and the seller side, quite honestly. Offers are coming in fast and furious, and they're coming in very aggressive from buyers. So if you're a buyer getting ready to purchase your first home, you really have to make sure you've got your ducks in a row, your I's dotted and your T's crossed. Make sure all your financing is in place. I would highly advise you to go back to your mortgage lender, and instead of the pre-qual that you may have in hand right now, take it to the next level, give them all your bank statements, your pay stubs, all the documentation they need, and get yourself a pre-approval. That's going to carry a lot more weight when you make an offer. We've seen crazy situations from both sides, representing our buyer clients and our sellers clients. Most recently, we had a property that I did the listing paperwork with the seller Thursday night about 7:30 p.m., wrote everything up, came home, had dinner, went to bed, didn't really plan on doing anything with the property for 2 more days because we were scheduling the photographer. Literally hadn't even put up the sign yet or posted anything on social media. That being said, there was a buyer out there who's been having trouble finding a house, posted on the local community Facebook page that they were looking for a home and what they were looking for. My seller responded that we were getting ready to list the house. The buyer and the seller communicated via Facebook Messenger. They arranged the showing appointment. And in less than 12 hours from the home's paperwork being signed, The home never actually made it to the market. We received an offer over asking price without it ever going on the market. So that one never even made it. We just listed a home actually yesterday morning. We uploaded all the photographs, made it active in the MLS. It's a nice little 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath home that's been fully updated. We listed it for $289,900. That was yesterday morning. Last night around 8:30, we received an offer on the property, and the offer actually made me take a step back. We received an offer $11,000 over the asking price as the initial offer from the buyer. This buyer was trying to put away any possibility of a bidding war. They wanted to take control up front with an extremely aggressive and what you might want to call an obnoxious offer. Taking the Godfather approach, they made an offer they couldn't refuse. Obviously, that's an offer our seller is going to accept. Why would you ever turn down something $11,000 over your asking price when you're asking $289,000 and you get $300,000? That being said, there's 9 more showings set up today and tomorrow. So it's an insane market out there. We're working with a buyer now that we're on the 5th house we've got an offer in on, and we have yet to secure a deal. Where we've been in competition with 9 offers, 10 offers, and it's just insane. We just keep coming into the shorter end of the stick because, you can only offer what you can afford to pay for the home. You can't go above that, obviously. We're working on one right now with them, but luckily we have a seller who is in a tough financial position. I shouldn't say lucky, but it's limited the number of people that are looking at this property. So we may be able to secure an offer here, but we're still working on that. It's the market's just crazy. From a buyer standpoint, you want to make sure that, like I said, you have all those ducks in a row. When you submit that offer, you want to make sure it's the best you can do. In some cases here, you're not going to get that second swing, right? You have to make your best bet on that initial offer you submit. Some things to work with are, work on things that don't cost you anything, that don't necessarily raise the price of the home, but concede items to the seller to make your offer look stronger. Instead of saying we're closed in 30 days, you say we're closed at the seller's discretion. Give them the option. You don't know what their situation is there. Have they secured housing? Have they lived in that home for 40 years and it's going to take them more than 30 days to pack up? So give them that opening. Increase your escrow deposit, right? Instead of putting down $2,000 or $5,000, maybe bump it to $10,000. That doesn't cost you any money, right? That $10,000 deposit is going to go towards your down payment and your closing costs anyway once you go to contract and go to settlement. So it doesn't cost you anything, but it makes you look a little stronger. Maybe write a letter to the seller explaining to them why you want to live in that house, why that house is perfect for you. Go for the heartstrings if it helps you. Some sellers will read them and take them, very seriously and put a lot of weight to those letters. Other sellers are going to put them aside and never even look at them. I know some agents do the same thing, but write the letter anyway. You don't know which side of that coin that seller is going to be on. So submit it. If they don't read it, all right, so it costs you a little bit of time. If they do read it, it may move you to the top of the list. On one of our recent listings, we had an offer come in. It wasn't necessarily the best offer, but it was the accepted offer. And it turns out that the buyer's sister knows the seller's sister. And they wrote a long letter explaining, the family relationship and the friendship and the connection and why they wanted to live there. And, growing up in the same neighborhood, and included a photograph of themselves. Their financing was strong. They couldn't push the price anymore, but my seller actually liked that buyer for that reason and selected their offer over others because they liked what was presented to them and how it was presented to them. So take every opportunity to make your offer stand out. Another option is called an escalation clause. And we're seeing this an awful lot right now, where you make the offer on the property. So let's say it was listed for $300,000 and the offer you make is $300,000, but you will pay $2,000 over any other offer up to $325,000. So if the next highest offer comes in at 308, you're paying 310. The next highest offer comes in at 325, you're out because that was your cap. So it gives you an escalation clause in the price, but it doesn't necessarily make you make a completely blind offer where you may be paying $8,000 over that highest competing offer because you don't see what it is. So the escalation clause is a good option to use. I don't use it that often. It's a individual case basis when we look at it. But, we've been struggling just like everyone else out there with our buyers in order to secure properties for them, right? Interest rates are extremely hysterically low and the inventory isn't getting any better and it's actually moving faster. It's the inventory that's coming in is going under contract at a faster pace than new inventory is coming in. So even though the new listings are increasing, the under contracts are increasing right along with it. So we're not getting an increase in inventory right now. We're stabilized out, but stabilized out is extremely low. So make sure you make time to go see that house as soon as it hits the market, as quickly as possible on that first day. Make sure that your mortgage paperwork is buttoned up and ready to go and you've got an approval, not a pre-qual. Make sure you have a proof of funds ready. Write the letter and discuss a strategy with your agent before you go in as to how you guys are going to proceed, right? Also, does your agent have a good relationship with the listing agent? Are they well connected in that marketplace? So everything comes into play when you're making that offer. So make sure, again, all your paperwork is lined up. You've got a strategy in place. You've discussed it with your agent. You guys are both comfortable with it and you know exactly what you're going to do. Anticipate that the best case scenario you're going to look at right now in the market is to pay full price. That's the best case scenario. But and to also anticipate you're going to pay over the asking price. And if you're looking for closing cost concessions, that's really going to handicap your offer. See if you can find another way around getting credits for closing costs and that type of thing. But structure a clean, simple offer, right? Talk to your lender. Can you go from a 3.5% down FHA to a 3% or a 5% conventional to make your offer look stronger? There's no really big difference between FHA and conventional, but some agents and some sellers view conventional as a stronger financing than the FHA. So talk to your lender. Can you go to 5%? Can you go to a 3% conventional program over the FHA? All right. Like I said, get all those ducks in a row, have everything ready to go. You're not going to have time to get things in place or come up with a strategy once this process starts. If you get your offer in on the first day and there's multiple offers, you're going to have about 24 hours to get your highest and best offer together. And that's a blind offer. And the best advice I could ever give any of my clients when it comes to that is you want to write the offer at a number that if I came back to you and said you have to spend $1,000 more, you would walk away with no regrets because it was your best number you put on the table. Don't put a number out there. Again, we're used to 300,000, offer 305. You knew you could have went to 308. You just wanted to see what was going to happen. And then 30 days later, when you see the property settles, you see that it's settled for 306 and you left some money on the table and you lost the house. So make sure it's the best number. It's your strongest number. It's your maximum number. Don't try and hold back and think you're going to get a chance to renegotiate in this process because most likely you're not. Again, be patient. Don't get frustrated. It's happening to everyone and just keep going along and, get those offers in quickly, get those I's dotted and T's crossed. If you're on the seller side of this is a whole different set of circumstances from the seller side. When we're meeting with sellers now, we're explaining to you that be ready to move fast, right? Because this is not going to be days on the market. We're going to be talking about hours on the market. In some cases, we've had properties, as I mentioned, the one the other day, never even made the market. So that was 0 hours on market. But we've had it occur we've secured the offer and the contract within 3 hours of that property hitting the marketplace. Now, if you're the seller, you've got 30 to 40 days to pack up and find somewhere to go. Now, if you're a seller that also you're moving up or you're moving down in the market or you're moving out of market, whatever it may be, in this marketplace, it's highly unlikely you're going to be able to secure a property with a contingent offer, which means contingent on you selling your existing home in order to buy the new home. Even if you're under contract and we're only contingent on your proceeds, we don't have to worry about selling it because there are so many offers coming in that have no contingencies attached to them. One, you need to sit down as a seller and talk to a lender and see how your finances look. Are you in a position to buy the type of home that you want to move up or down into without selling your existing home? Can you go non-contingent? Now, that's a risky proposition because on the off rare chance that your existing home doesn't sell and you do secure the new home, you're carrying 2 properties and you're carrying 2 mortgages and 2 sets of taxes and homeowners insurance and utilities. So that's a gamble that you need to sit down and, decide if you're willing to take that on your own or if that's something that you're not willing to tackle right now or run that risk. So what I'm sitting down and talking to sellers about now is we need to make sure that we can secure temporary housing, right? Because we need to get the existing home sold, which is going to happen very quickly. We need to get that to settlement, which is another set of hurdles that we need to get through and over. And then we need to get the check in your bank account. Once we have that, now we can start looking for the new house. So we need to find a month-to-month rental. Or if you can the perfect scenario is to move in with family. I know that's not always practical or pleasant, but it does allow you to bank a lot of money and keep cash in the bank. Or we look for a month-to-month housing situation, an apartment rental, short-term rental scenario where we can move in, but with 30 days notice, when we find the new house, we can move out. So there's no point in even looking at any homes until your home is actually sold, right? I would actually say once you get past the inspections and the mortgage contingency and there's 2 weeks left till settlement or 10 days left till settlement, then you can start looking. But again, you're going to need the home to have gone to closing and the check to be deposited in your bank account before we can start successfully securing you a home. And, the sword cuts both ways. So as a seller, it's great. You're going to have all these buyers come into your home. They're all going to love your home and they're all going to make you these incredible offers. And you're going to be selling for over your asking price. But after we do that, you're going to go over to the other side of that sword and you're going to be in line with all those other buyers. And you're going to be making those offers above asking price. So we need to set you up, just like we talked about in the beginning, that all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed, and we are putting the best offer forward. So as a seller, even though it's an extreme seller's market, we still need to make sure the house is staged and shows well, right? We don't want to leave any money on the table there. We still want to make sure we have professional photographs. We want to make sure that we're priming the house in the marketplace as we're getting it ready as a coming soon listing. So we're going to create a pent-up demand for the property. So as soon as that we make it active, we've got people ready to go that have been waiting to get in, and they line up like this one that we listed yesterday with the $300,000 offer, $11,000 over ask. We've got about 15 showings in 12 hours. Now that sounds like a lot, but I've actually shown up at properties with buyers to show houses, and there is a line to get in to look at the house. We're all social distancing and wearing our masks, but we're lined up down the sidewalk in order, waiting to get in. So it's true insanity out there. So if you're selling, start packing now, be prepared. You're going to be out of your house in 30 to 45 days. In a very short period of time, you're going to have a lot of people walking through your house to see it, and you're going to have a lot of offers to review. When you're reviewing those offers from a seller standpoint, when you talk about bidding wars and you hear about that on the news, well, really it's what we refer to as highest and best. If we have more than one offer come in, you as a seller have the option as to how you wish to proceed in handling those offers. So we refer to this as a multiple offer situation. You can just pick one of the offers and select it, and that's the one you're happy with, and go forward, and that's it, and you're done. You can negotiate with each offer individually and go back to each of them and play them off each other and negotiate out the best terms for you. Or you can have your agent go back to everyone that submitted an offer and everyone that showed the house and instruct them to bring us your highest and best offers by 5 p.m. tomorrow. At 5 p.m., stop receiving the offers. Your agent should compile them all together, and then you should review them with your agent. But I want you to keep something in mind. The term I'm using is highest and best. So sometimes the best offer isn't the highest offer, and the highest offer isn't necessarily the best offer. Let me put that in perspective, and we're used to $300,000 scenario again. Your property's listed for $300,000. You got several offers that come in. We do a highest and best. It's 5 o'clock the next day. We're reviewing the offers, and we've got one for $310,000. It's an FHA loan. They're putting down 3.5%, and they're looking to close in 45 days. That's your highest. But we also have a conventional buyer putting down 20%, and they're at $305,000. So it's $5,000 less, but they're putting down over $60,000 versus the $10,000 on the FHA buyer. Maybe they have a full pre-approval with them instead of a pre-qualification. They're willing to close whenever you want. They're not setting a firm timeline. So that one would be considered the best at that point. But maybe there's a full price offer of $300,000 that's 100% cash, no inspections, no appraisals. They're going to take the house as is, as sits. So yes, it's $10,000 lower than the FHA, but we're not worrying about a small down payment because it's a 100% cash offer. We're not worrying about inspections or appraisals. All of the contingencies have been taken off the table. Now you have to sit down and review them. Your best offer isn't your highest one there. So you may not take the cash deal, but you are fully in your rights to go back to that cash deal and say, hey, look, we like your terms, but we need you to be at 310. Maybe they come back at 305. Or we need you to be at 305 to match the conventional offer. Whatever it may be, you have to look through those offers, not just at the top line, not just for 310 versus 300, but all the other terms and conditions of the offer, right? Because giving up inspections, not having to worry about appraisals, and not having to worry about mortgage underwriting or anything like that, there's huge value to those contingencies being removed versus the one that has them in that happens to be a higher offer. The last home of mine that I sold, I had 5 offers, and this was 5 years ago actually, but we had 5 offers on the home. I did not accept the highest offer. I actually took an offer that was $7,000 less because after reviewing it, I felt they had better financing in place. I felt very, very secure with the other agent. I knew she was a professional. I knew she knew what she was doing, and she would get the deal to the table. The buyers had a strong, significant down payment compared to the other one. So when I looked at it, yeah, the other one was $7,000 higher, but I wasn't as comfortable or secure that that deal would get to the table as easily and securely as the lower offer. So I was willing to leave $7,000 on the table in order to get the settlement and secure the deal. And we did, and everybody's happy now, but it's not always the highest. Your best isn't always the highest, and I cannot stress that enough. And, review every aspect of the offer. I'm not personally on the listing agent side. I don't put any weight into the letters and the photographs and the pleas. I look at the finances, and I try to keep my sellers looking at the numbers and the financing and the terms, and let's stay away from the social aspect of it, so to speak, or the heartstrings part of it. I don't always win that with my sellers. We just had one where they selected based off the letter in the photograph, and that's fine. It's their home. It's their choice. It was still a very, very strong offer, and it may not have been the highest, and it was in the middle of being the best, but it was the one they felt most comfortable with. And really, that's what it comes down to. As your agents, we can give you advice and guidance, but you have to give us the direction, right? We have to tell you the pros and cons, explain to you the consequences of your choices and what the downsides are and what the upsides are, but you ultimately have to make the decision. This is your home. This is your $300,000. It's not ours. So make sure your house is ready to go when it hits the market. Make sure the pictures are there. Don't let your agent launch the listing of your home without all the photographs completed, the description and the virtual tour. You only get to be new on the marketplace once as a seller, right? Buyers are getting those alerts. They're going out looking at those brand new listings immediately. They're lining up and they're making the offers. But when you hit the market and there's no photographs and there's no description, or there's really bad photographs, they're still not going to come look at you first, right? They may come to you after the fact with a little bit less enthusiasm than if the photographs were taken and ready to go. And the other thing, this is most important. Yes, buyers are bidding up houses. They are raising the prices. But when you come to market with your house as a new listing, you still have to make sure that you're priced right. Don't price based off of where the bidding wars are going. Price your home based off of the comparables in the neighborhood. Price your home based off of the market. Don't try and push it. If you're priced right, the buyers are going to push up your price for you. And if you're priced right, you're going to get more people looking at it. The homes that are sitting there languishing on the market right now, and there are some in this market, even though homes are selling in minutes and hours and not days. But if you look out there, you're going to find that there are homes sitting there for 60 days and 90 days. Now, a year ago, that wasn't a real big deal. If your house was on the market for 30 days, that was actually a short time frame, right? If you get a contract in the first 30 days, that was really good a year ago. If you were still on the market at 60 days, we weren't questioning it at all. And we weren't questioning it at 90 because the average days on market a year ago were 93 days. Well, now, if you're on the market for 2 weeks, buyers are looking at it going, what's wrong with it? Why didn't anyone else already buy it? Right? The cycle has changed, and the way buyers view you on the market and how long you've been on the market has changed drastically in the last year. We've gone from 90 days being acceptable and a norm to 2 weeks being what's wrong and why is it still on the market? So you have to make sure you're priced right, because the ones that are sitting out there for 30, 40, 60, 90, 120 days, they're the greedy ones. They're the ones where, the house should have been priced at 390 and the market may take it to 310 or 300, but this seller decided to price it at 325 to start with coming out of the gate. Well, guess what? They didn't get anything. They got nothing, nada. So your objective when you put the house on the market is to get as many eyeballs on it as humanly possible and as many feet through the front door in the shortest time frame possible, so we can create that feeding frenzy and that bidding war. But if you're just sitting there, now you end up negotiating where your neighbors are selecting. You're reducing where your neighbors are looking at escalation clauses. So price right is the number one thing you can do to get your home sold and get your home sold quickly. The other thing to consider from a buyer standpoint and a seller standpoint is, as these prices are increasing, when appraisers are looking at your house from a buyer standpoint or a seller standpoint, when the appraiser is looking at a house, they're looking in a rear view mirror. They're looking what closed in the last 180, 90 days, 180 days in the neighborhood that match this home. Now they're going to make adjustments and everything, but they're not looking forward in the market. They can't see that the last 4 went to bidding wars and they got $10 or $15 or $20,000 over asking price because they haven't settled yet, right? When they settle, they're going to set the new, baseline for the neighborhood. But right now, appraisers are looking in the rearview mirror. So appraisal values aren't necessarily always matching up to the market values. The appraiser's numbers aren't matching up to the buyer's numbers. And this creates a whole nother aspect of the market that is creating turmoil here. Because now we've established value is $300,000 on this home, but when the appraiser looks at it, he's saying it's $290 where we priced it at. So that's why when we're looking at those offers, we're looking at best, not necessarily just highest, right? Because that FHA deal has an amendatory clause attached to it that says the property must appraise for the sales price or the buyer has the option to cancel. So if you're looking at those, you have to pre-write into those offers, or buyers, you may want to pre-write this into your offer that you're waiving the appraisal, and you will make up the difference if the appraisal comes in light. So if that appraisal were to come in at $290 and your offer was $300, you're going to spend that extra $10,000 out of pocket to hold the deal where it is. That's a risk from a buyer's standpoint. It's a risk from a seller standpoint as well, because an FHA loan is attached to that property if the deal falls apart or not. So again, we're going to stay with that. We listed it for $290,000. We went under contract for $300,000. The appraisal came in at $290,000. The buyer couldn't make up the difference. Seller wasn't willing to adjust the price. They've already, in their mind sold their house for $300, not $290. So that deal falls apart. Buyer gets back their deposit. They walk away. But that FHA appraisal for $290 is now attached to the home. And I believe right now, and when we talk to our mortgage professionals in one of our upcoming interviews, we'll discuss this, but I believe that appraisal sticks to the property for 4 months. So from the time of the appraisal, 4 months out, anyone that's getting an FHA loan, that's the number. They can't change the number unless they're going to pay out of pocket. Now, they are allowed to pay out of pocket and make up the difference, but that's a hard sell to someone saying, hey, FHA and the appraiser say it's worth $290. But for you to buy it, you have to pay $10,000 over what they said the value is. Now, that's not actually true, because that's a lagging valuation, because as I said, the appraisers are looking backwards, not forwards. So that's something to keep in mind. That doesn't apply in a conventional situation. And obviously it doesn't apply at all in a cash situation, which is why it's highest and best. But I think right now our biggest issues, besides inventory and getting properties to get to the settlement table, is appraisals. It's the biggest problem out there right now. The appraisers are doing their job and they're doing it the way they're supposed to do it. But unfortunately, the market is moving so fast that they are literally 4 to 6 months behind us in value. And that might be a 5 to 10% difference. That might be a 5 to 10% difference in home values, depending on where you're at in the country. So, the appraisal comes in light, but that's not necessarily reflections of the true market value. That's the market value 3, 4, 6 months ago. And in a normal market, that shouldn't be a problem, because, real estate normally doesn't move that quickly in valuation. More of a year over year thing, not a month over month thing. But now we're seeing it as a month over month situation. I'm talking to agents around the country, and everyone's experiencing the same thing. This is not a South Jersey phenomenon. When you're a buyer going in and you start doing your inspection report and you want to get hardcore in your negotiations for the inspection repairs, I want you to keep something in mind, because your seller and the seller's agent are keeping this in the back of their mind. They know there's 10 more of you as a buyer lined up to buy this house if you're not happy with it. So your negotiating strength doesn't exist right now. If they say no to you, you have the right to walk away, but they're holding the cards, because there literally could be 10 people waiting, right? We get calls all the time on properties we have under contract. They're marked in there. They're off the market. They're under contract. They're going to closing in a week. Agents are still calling us on behalf of their buyer clients saying, If anything happens with their financing, if anything happens with the inspections, if this deal falls apart for any reason at all, call me right away. I have a buyer that wants the home. Those calls happen all the time on all of our listings. It's amazing. So walk softly, carry a big stick, but remember, you don't have the negotiating strength right now. The sellers have the negotiating strength. And sellers keep that in mind as well, right? When you're getting those inspection requests in, you can draw a harder line today than you could have 3 months ago. 4 months ago, in March and April, 4 or 5 months ago, when we had no idea what was happening, this was a completely different real estate market, right? We didn't know what was coming down the line. We didn't know who was getting furloughed, who was getting laid off, what was going to happen to the economy. We didn't know what was going on with interest rates. And it was a whole different market, right? It was more of a normal market at that point. Yes, inventories were down, but everyone was a little gun shy and standing on the sidelines. Well, that's gone now. And what you may have been doing as a buyer 3-4 months ago doesn't exist today. What your friends are telling you they were able to do a year ago or 6 months ago doesn't apply today. Right? Talk to your professionals, talk to your agents, make sure you have a good experienced agent. Ask them how many times they've been through this in their career. A lot of new agents have never experienced this before. Unless you were in the market as an agent back in the 2000s, 03 to 08, you've never gone through this before. It didn't exist. So you want someone with experience on A, how to manage those offers from a seller side, and B, you want someone who has experience in putting together a strong offer and a multiple offer situation from the buyer side. Unfortunately, that only comes from experience. We can't teach agents that in a book. And keep something else in mind. Look at each individual market, right? We're talking in very, very broad terms. But in some areas, in some neighborhoods, in some towns, it's still a buyer's market, right? And keep that in mind. Look at the market, or have your agent look at the market and the stats and the timelines that you're going into. It may not be to the extreme as everywhere else around you. There are certain areas right now that aren't going through this phenomenon. So double check that. Don't step in and make the bid and the structure of your bid based off of what I'm telling you on the podcast or what you're hearing on CNBC. Dive in, talk to your agent, discuss with them what's going on. What are they seeing? What are the average days on market right now? Are they going for over, or are they going for asking price, or are they going below? Go through that with them. Again, before you go out and look at any homes as a buyer, make sure you've studied the market. You have a game plan in place. You have a strategy. You and your agent know exactly what you're going to do, and you have all of your paperwork in hand. Before you even start the process, have that all worked out. On the seller side, it's the exact same thing. Be prepared for all those showings to come in very quickly. Have a system in place to review those offers. Have a strategy in place. Know exactly what you want and what your perfect optimal situation it is. And then be prepared to receive all those offers and review them. This is not something you want to make up as you go, right? So seller, buyer, sit down with your professional, have a game plan in place, and then start the process. Don't make it up as you go. You end up cutting off your nose to spite your face. All right. So I'm going to let you guys go today. I hope that was helpful and informative. Good luck out there if you're out looking for a home. If you're selling a home, start packing now, because you're going to be on the market for a couple hours and you're moving in 30 days or less. And if you're buying a home, be prepared that you're going to go through this a couple times. So the one upside from a buyer is you're going to get a lot of practice on structuring these offers and putting them together, because the likelihood that you're going to put in one and secure your dream home, slim to none right now, unfortunately. Everyone take care. Be prepared for those storms. They're talking about we're going to have a really, really strong hurricane season in 2020. Of course, why wouldn't we? We've had everything else. Killer hornets, pandemic, riots, lootings. Now we're going to get a hurricane. So be prepared for the storms. Get those candles, batteries, and flashlights in place. Have some extra water. And have a game plan when that power goes out, what you're going to do. Are you going to go to family members? You're going to go check into a hotel? What are you going to do? Because when it's 95 degrees outside and 80% humidity like it is in New Jersey, and you lose power and you lose air conditioning, Yeah, it stinks to not have internet and not have electricity, but it's absolutely horrendous to not have air conditioning. So have a game plan in place. And I think the theme you can take from this podcast this week is if it's a storm, if it's selling your home, or if it's trying to buy a home, make sure you have your game plan in place before you start. So take care, everybody. Stay safe. Practice your social distancing. We'll be back in the coming weeks with an interview with Jim Reed at Green Tree Mortgage discussing the pre-qual and pre-approval process. Randy Vonderton from Edgewood and Associates talking about homeowners insurance. So it should be very informative, and we're looking forward to it. Take care. Enjoy the end of summer that's coming upon us, and I'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If you would like any additional information, please contact us at Team Clyde Realtors on Instagram or Facebook, or you can send us an email at Steven@TeamClyde.